All right, kids. Cunningham's law says the best way to get the right answer on the internet is to not ask a question, it's to post the wrong answer. The concept is named after Ward Cunningham, the inventor of wiki software. According to the law's author, Stephen Maggette, Wikipedia may be the most well-known demonstration of this law. And I have some personal experience with this law. A few years ago, I made a video about Jay-Z where I claimed that Biggie Smalls died on March 9th, 1995. Now, I know and knew that the Notorious died in 1997. I remember when it happened. And whether this mess up of mine was due to me misspeaking or misreading what my teleprompter said, I missed it. And despite making a pretty good argument about hip hop's GOAT status, I was repeatedly reminded of my mistake. Well, based on Cunningham's law, ain't nobody getting more correct answers right now than this person.
A bullet couldn't stop Trump. A virus just stopped Biden. You've got the nominees of this party getting their butts kissed. Biden's getting his butt kicked by his own party. The Democrats are coming apart. The Republicans are coming together.
Van Jones, whose wrong answers were posted all over the internet last week while he was a correspondent and commentator during CNN's coverage of the Republican National Convention. Social media questioned why Jones would compare Trump's ear flesh wound, and we still don't know if he was hit with a bullet or shrapnel or a glass fragment, to Biden shutting himself down due to catching COVID, which he's supposed to do. Plus, the Republican nominees getting their butts kissed. I'm sure Van means this in a negative way, observing differences, of course, but Biden getting his kicked is, in some sense, Dems having some standards for fitness: mental, physical, moral, capable of winning an election, criminal or otherwise. Keep in mind, Republicans are coming together to support a convicted felon who raped someone. Add that to the fact that Van Jones also said a personal story that Governor of Arkansas, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, told with a sense of aggrievement. Conservatives feel that liberal culture demeans them, attacks them, and tries to cancel them. And he didn't mention that Sanders' policies led to this and are doing those things in turn to citizens. Then Van Jones said the last time he had whatever feeling he had at the 2024 RNC, referring to the celebratory nature of the event for Repubs, was Obama in 2008. Roland S. Martin reminded Van Jones that Barry's acceptance speech was delivered from Mile High Stadium in Denver on the anniversary of the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. There's levels to this. Also, it took someone else on that CNN set to say that the difference between 2008 and now is that Obama was popular outside of his own party. Yet, still, these weren't even the worst takes from Van Jones.
That was probably the most dangerous speak for the Democratic coalition. That is a young woman of color. She's describing the experience a lot of people have, feeling that maybe if you're around too many liberals, you might get criticized too much, or you might not be able to speak your mind. And she spoke to it really well. And she's way more famous than any of us up here. Yeah. I'm going to tell you that, way more famous.
I'm not going to disagree with him about Amber Rose being more famous than everyone on that panel with him, but that fame came from doing the very things that go against the GOP's professed values. Booking Amber Rose, who called Donald a sexual predator, to speak at their convention is somehow not a DEI didn't earn it thing. It's a desperate attempt from a political party to get more celebrities, especially blackish ones. They panicked about Taylor Swift getting her fans to vote and hoped to white American Jesus that she or her boyfriend wouldn't endorse Biden for president after the Super Bowl. And Van Jones is talking about Amber Rose's ability to speak to the back of the room. A bald black man hasn't seen a week this big since Nick Fury did like 14 years ago. And Van Jones didn't even get the Avengers out of it. So, as I've already shown, and as you're about to see, Van Jones's takes are weird, and they often miss key context and details. And let me be clear, I'm not suggesting that he should both sides his way through or talk up blue no matter who, or if he is simply trying to come off as an unbiased, impartial partisan. Van Jones's talking points make me wonder what's up with this dude. So, Anthony Cable Jones, who has a twin sister, was born in Jackson, Tennessee. He earned his Bachelor of Science in Communication and Political Science from UT Martin. He earned his JD while graduating from Yale Law in 1993. He started going by Van in his teens and was one of a few law students selected to serve as a legal observer during the protests and riots that took place after 4 officers were acquitted for beating Rodney King. He was based in San Francisco at that time, and he also got arrested with others for protesting, although charges were later dropped and those swept up in mass arrests won a settlement. Van Jones said that what happened impacted him this way. The incident deepened my dissatisfaction with the system and accelerated my political radicalization. With that in mind, this is who he was then.
Now, if students can do that in 1960, if students can do that in 1970, if students can do that in 1985 and 86, in 1993, when we have the United States government building a death camp, a concentration camp for black people who have done nothing wrong but get sick and want justice. That's all they've done wrong. If we can't close that death camp, if this generation cannot prevent another Japanese American internment in our lifetime, we should all get haircuts and go get regular jobs and give it up.
Hassan Piker pointed out, Van Jones did cut his hair and get regular jobs. This isn't really who he is anymore, and that's okay. People change, develop, grow. And I find myself wondering, if he were a superhero, would his name be Devil's Advocate? Would he have the power of, for the sake of argument? Notice that I'm not focusing on his nonprofit work, by the way. He's done a lot for social justice, police reform, voting rights, education, opioid addiction, environmentalism, amplifying black voices, and so on. I'm not going to question his effort, but his execution, though, later got him $100 million from Jeff Bezos and removed from his own organization. And probably these devil's advocate type takes. Gotta do better.
Peace. New rule for you devil's advocates out there. Y'all get to play devil's advocate in my comments, but you have to name the devil for which you are advocating. Meaning if the topic is anti-racist and you slide in to oppose it, you have to say that you are a racism advocate. Set aside the clever little title of devil's advocate and name it. You see, if you're uncomfortable naming the thing for which you are advocating, why are you comfortable advocating for?
In 2009, Van Jones was appointed to be special advisor for green jobs in former President Barack Obama's White House. It wasn't long after that when Fox News, Glenn Beck specifically, criticized Van's involvement with Storm, along with his advocacy on behalf of death row inmate Mumia Abu Jamal, who was convicted of fatally shooting a Philadelphia police officer in 1981. See, Van Jones was called radical because Storm, standing together to organize a revolutionary movement and is no longer a thing, held study groups on the theories of Marx and Lenin, and dreamed of a multiracial socialist utopia. They protested police brutality and got arrested for crashing through police barricades, and I can't even picture this version of him. Hey, Abu Jamal isn't on death row anymore, due in part to people like Jones, and believe it or not, Fox lied and said that Van signed a 2004 petition by 911truth.org that suggested the Bush administration, quote, may indeed have deliberately allowed 9/11 to happen. In September of 2009, 6 months into his job, Van Jones resigned from his position in the Obama administration for something he said. I will get back to this later. Fast forward to June of 2013 and Van Jones was brought on to CNN where he hosted or co-hosted Crossfire, The Messy Truth, The Van Jones Show, The Redemption Project with Van Jones, Messy Truth Digital Series, and The Messy Truth VR Experience with Van Jones. His shows are like Kang variants of one another, different but all the same. He remained a live contributor on political segments at that time when he would say stuff like, this is what white lash looks like after former President Donald Trump was elected, just to turn around and do a this.
He became president of the United States in that moment, period. There are a lot of people who have a lot of reason to be frustrated with him, to be fearful of him, to be mad at him. But that was one of the most extraordinary moments you have ever seen in American politics, period.
In 2018, Van Jones met with folks at the Trump White House in order to work on criminal justice reform. We know this because there are pictures, and because, not that he was hiding it, he admitted to doing so when the Daily Beast reported that Van secretly visited the White House to speak to Jared Kushner about an executive order signed by Trump. and then praised it on his show when it was announced. Jones said that the Trump administration's executive order, which banned chokeholds in most situations and established a database to more easily share information about an officer who has had complaints for excessive force, something that Van Jones did on a smaller scale in the 90s, was, quote, a good thing, mainly because you saw the support of law enforcement there. There is movement in the direction of a database for bad cops. That's pretty much all that executive order did, though. Say that. He added that he had never been included in any meetings about police reform, and he didn't know what was in the executive order until the day it was released. However, by then, Black people didn't trust him.
Now, Van, you do spend a lot of time, threading the middle and trying to unite people. But there are those who really accuse you of being a political opportunist, a chameleon, so to speak, who provided racial cover for former disgraced, twice impeached President Trump. Yet, just recently, you cried on CNN when Joe Biden was elected the 46th president. And you said, it's easier to be a parent now. Character matters now. Truth matters. You even mentioned George Floyd and said a lot of people felt they couldn't breathe. People in the Black community don't trust you anymore.
That was Sonny Hostin on The View speaking for many of us. Van Jones responded by saying he acknowledged Trump's horrific stuff when saying Donnie doesn't get credit for the Black stuff he's done. Furthermore, quote, my entire life has been about bringing people together to solve tough problems for the people at the bottom who don't have anything. I'm going to keep doing it, whoever's in the White House. I mean, Van Jones did collaborate with The View's conservative co-host, Meghan McCain, on a documentary called The Reunited States. Meanwhile,
That moment, that is not a conqueror. That is a granddad having a big...
You hear what you're saying out loud, brother?
I was freelancing in the summer of 2022 when Chris Licht became the boss of CNN. The network stated that their goal was to dial back on partisan and alarmist programming in favor of traditional journalism. According to Axios, Licht wanted to give personalities that may appear polarizing a chance to prove they're willing to uphold the network's values, so they don't tarnish CNN's journalism brand, whatever that is anymore. For on-air talent, that included engaging in respectful interviews that don't feel like PR stunts. Anyways, with all the shakeups, I just knew Van Jones had job security.
If you pull out the working class, you've got people who are very well educated and very well off. Those people talk funny. Latinx, I've never met a Latinx. I've never met a BIPOC. I've never met, all this weird stuff that these highly educated people say is bizarre. Nobody talks that way at the barbershop, the nail salon, the grocery store, the community center. But that's how we talk now. So that's weird.
Who is he speaking for? Who is he talking to? Van Jones said he's never met a BIPOC or a Latinx. Is this bald man really talking to people at barbershops who feel like this? He knows people can't really refer to themselves as a BIPOC, right? More inclusive language that some use in order to be more inclusive is talking funny. I expect better from a BIPOC like Van Jones, whose takes regularly get used by conservative media. What's up with this dude? Energy vampire. Is there a bald version of Blade that I can use to make this joke work? This, but in black. Earlier in this video, I skimmed over Van Jones resigning from his position as special advisor to green jobs in the Obama White House. In September of 2009, a video on YouTube was uploaded of a lecture that Jones was giving at Berkeley Energy and Resources Collaborative from February of that same year. Just listen to how he responds to this woman's question.
When nobody in the Republicans are voting with him, how were the Republicans able to push things through when they had less than 60 senators, but somehow we can't?
Well, the answer to that is they're assholes. And Barack Obama's not an asshole. So, now, I will say this. I can be an asshole. And some of us who are not Barack Hussein Obama are going to have to start getting a little bit uppity.
He was referring to congressional Republican lawmakers when he said that. Then he called himself an a-hole, and I wish he was, but he isn't. He was saying Democrats need to step up the fight, but so does he. He has the platform to do so, but his preferred weapon is reaching across the aisle with people whose ideology led him to leaving a job in the White House. I should add, this is how he apologized for his remarks, saying the words he chose, quote, do not reflect the views of the Obama administration, which has made every effort to work in a bipartisan fashion, and they do not reflect the experience I have had since I joined the administration. While reading up on Van Jones, I came across this CNN article/interview from April of 2022 that he did about his hour-long documentary, The Fire Still Burns, on Rodney King. He said, I've spent the past 30 years of my life trying to build constructive organizations and constructive ideas that could actually solve some of these problems, but I never got over the feeling of being disgusted with the system and disappointed about people's response. And I was about to feel a certain way about this disappointed part, but I kept reading. When you have lawlessness in the police force, you're going to get way more lawlessness in the streets. At some point, you're going to have social chaos. That's what happened. People don't like to burn down their own neighborhoods, but at a certain point, you're going to have a negative reaction. Yes, got it. I mean, those neighborhoods don't belong to them. They were systematically placed there, but yes. He stated that he saw one video of one black guy getting beaten and saw the court system respond poorly, and it changed his entire life for 30 years. However, going back to his experience during those protests and riots in the early 90s, he was trying to be a revolutionary and a rowdy nationalist on April 28th before the King verdict was announced, but by August 1992, he had become a communist. That's not who he is, and that's not how he is, and that's fine. He is, when Obama was in office, I was working with Newt Gingrich. I was working with Republicans then to get people out of prison. He is smiling and taking pictures because he takes pictures with a lot of people. He is the CNN of black activists. There are black people that don't trust him. Future would have shot him by now on behalf of Young Metro. And I don't trust CNN. I have asked them for jobs, though. When the right accuses me of getting my information from that network, I let them know that I hate Watch Fox more than I even glance at CNN. And somehow, Van Jones has kept his job there for so long when others in cable news at large have gotten fired. He's foolproof. No, not Luke Cage. And good for him. You know what? I'm not a revolutionary either, and I don't think I'm radical. Van Jones has and will do more for people than I'll ever do. But the thing is, when he says stuff, whoever he's talking to or think he's speaking for, context, details, and nuance ain't coming out of his mouth as considerably and consistently as they should be from someone with his education and experience. He knows better. And I get it. I used to get invited to provide analysis on Indisputable with Dr. Richie. When the host stops talking, you only have so much time to offer something poignant, and kind of depends on the question you were asked. Going live with your thoughts is different than what I do here, making a sport out of providing context and details. Hot takes aren't my thing. 99% of what I say is scripted, and not that it is my place to call myself Ninja Nuance. That's for the audience to determine and spam into my comment section. So it's easier for me to say when my efforts and execution work in these spaces. Van Jones was crying again on TV after President Joe Biden dropped out of the 2024 presidential race. Some will kill him for that. He cried when Biden was elected. Something I want to explore is, among black activists, commentators, content creators, intellectuals, who do I trust and why? Yeah, I'm sure there are people who don't trust me. I accept it. However, I recognize that if the people who respect the views and opinions of Kid Rock, Ted Nugent, Kevin Sorbo, Hulk Hogan, and Rob Schneider love something that I said, I done got it wrong. We gonna be all right.
In 2016, you and I were probably the two most vocal critics of Trump during the campaign on CNN, to the point where it was reported that Jared Kushner went in and met with executives at our parent company and asked that you and I be fired. And then, all of a sudden you show up working with a nepotism Barbie and nepotism Ken, and you work and showing up, in pictures with Eric Trump and with Candace Owens. And so I think there's people who wonder, and I'm one of them, how did that evolution happen?